Hi everyone, my name's Frances Resthover. I'm an M4 at LKSOM. I'm just going to take a couple minutes of your time to talk about this initiative that we started last year to bring a little bit of education about firearm safety and harm reduction to third year medical students who are beginning their pediatrics rotation, just to bring awareness of the topic and give you guys some ideas for how to approach conversations with talking about firearm safety with patients and their families, and really just make us all a bit more aware of how this plagues the community and patient population that we work with. If you all don't mind just taking a few seconds to complete this pre-lecture survey. It's anonymous and very brief. It's like 4 to 5 questions just to gauge your comfortability with the topic right now and any suggestions that you all have for this presentation. And then at the end of your clerkship, I will be sending out via email a post-clerkship survey that will be just to gauge how helpful this was for you during your pediatrics rotation and any suggestions that you all have to improve it. And so when the time comes, I'll send that via email, and I would appreciate you also completing that if you don't mind. And then I'll take a brief moment right now to let you all scan this QR code and fill that out. So starting with why is this important? So firearms are the leading cause of death for children aged 1 to 19 in the United States. Just to put a number to that, there's 4.6 million children and teens who live in a home with a loaded unlocked gun, and about 75% of them, ages 5 to 14, are aware of where that firearm is kept in the home. And 80% of unintentional firearm deaths for kids under age 15 happen at home. So it's very prevalent in our country. So just to put some numbers out there, I got all of this from a website called Gun Violence Archive. You're all welcome to take a look at the website as you'd like. It's updated pretty frequently, but this is just to help put a number to some of the things that we're talking about. So you can see number of children aged 0 to 11 killed back in 2024 from gun violence injuries are 173, injured 393, and then they also have numbers for ages 12 to 17, and it increases significantly in that age group as well. And this is just to give a visual picture for where we're seeing the highest distribution of gun violence in the United States. So these are unintentional shootings, and you could see the area that we're in is pretty densely populated with these types of incidents, as well as a lot of the Northeast. And this is specifically for teens killed or injured, and that you could see the distribution holds our area. This is highly prevalent. And one incident that really kind of was a call to action for this group that we developed at the school was back in 2023. A 2-year-old girl was actually died after being shot inside of her home by her cousin, while multiple adult family members were home as well. One of the children got a hold of the gun and were playing with it, and it was loaded, and the 2-year-old girl was actually shot and brought to Temple, and she unfortunately died. So this was really impactful for our community as a whole, and was something that really motivated the founder of this group, who's now graduated, to start bringing more awareness to this topic on the medical school side of things, not just over in the hospital. So just to give some familiarity, so when you're having these conversations with families, when you're in the outpatient setting in particular, you will have these sheets that they're very helpful and help prompt you to guide the conversation with families. And when you get to the social history section, there's questions about, are there any firearms in the home? How are they locked and stored? So we just think it's important that if we're going to be asking these conversations, that we actually understand what are the storage options for firearms. So there are many options. By no means am I an expert, or does anyone expect you to be an expert, but the options really range from how high tech they are, and then of course they increase with how expensive they are. So the most basic type of gun lock is this thing called a cable lock, and it's literally like a cable on a tether, and you just tie it around the gun, and that's like the least expensive, least complex option. Then they start to get a bit more sophisticated and more expensive at that. So gun cases, lock boxes, these electronic lock boxes, and then they actually have these biometric safes that are pretty complex and expensive, but just to be aware of all the different options out there. And one thing that I'll talk about a bit later in the presentation is Scott Charles, who's one of the trauma advocates over at the hospital, he received a very large grant and was able to purchase a lot of cable locks. And that's something that we actually have available for any patient or family member who would like one of these cable locks. We actually do community events and distribute them, but I'll talk a bit later about how to request one of those for one of your patients and their families if they're interested in it. We can do that online. So getting into tips for talking to patients about firearms. So we've really been encouraging everyone to approach this from a focus on family safety and ensuring that this is a safe space and it's just a family safety conversation like any other. But as we know, it's kind of a sensitive topic for a lot of people, and people have varying degrees of comfortability with talking about it. So always grounding yourself in the family safety aspect. So we try to be motivational with our interviewing, as with a lot of things. So how do you store your firearms and why do you store them that way? Coming from a place of wanting to learn. And just keeping in mind that many gun owners are very knowledgeable and do have a commitment to safety. So really important to come at it from not a judgmental standpoint. And just so you know the legality of all of this, healthcare providers are free to ask and free to record any information they discussed with patients regarding firearm and firearm safety. So that can be recorded in your notes in Epic as well. If you'd like a little mnemonic for how to approach this, the 5 A's are ask patients about their interest in safe storage, really just gauging how open they are to having this conversation. And then advise and provide general firearm safety information. So something like we just talked about a couple slides ago, the different types of storage options. Assess their interest in safe storage and firearm removal from the home. So not only are they interested in learning about this, but they're interested in having an option like this in their home. Assist them in finding safe storage options. So like requesting a gun lock, which I'll talk about. And then arrange follow-up. Don't just let it be a one-time conversation. So then talking to children specifically, on your Peds rotation, children over the age of 12, you'll be talking to one-on-one and doing a Heads assessment. So this is kind of the time that these things come up. But just talking to the patient specifically, you really want to start talking to them as early and often as possible. So in our role with the Heads assessment, that starts at age 12, but it's good to encourage families to have open conversations as well on their own. Repetition's key, so this should be assessed not just one time. And even if they don't have guns at the home, like don't let that be a stopping point for the conversation, because they may be exposed at friends' houses, family members' houses. There's plenty of spaces that children are that are not their own home where they may be exposed. And really just the basics are they should assume a gun is loaded and can fire and never touch one without adult supervision. This is important when working with Peds patients, just to be on the same page as their parents so that they're not receiving conflicting messages about the topic. And then demystifying situation using real life examples. So the ones I just talked about earlier in the lecture, really any ones you hear about on the news are good ways to kind of make it real for people and understand like this is important and it's real and prevalent. On the other side of this issue is talking just to know the warning signs for suicide, because that's also something that is unfortunately interlinked with firearms as well and firearm access. So just things to look out for in your patients if they're talking about like being a burden to other people, they talk about ways to die, or just they talk hopelessly about the future, extreme mood swings, isolation and loneliness, saying they don't know how much longer they can go on, substance use, as well as a history of practicing self-harm are just things that you should be aware of, can be warning signs for suicide, and particularly if they do have access to a firearm or there's a firearm in the home, their risk is greatly heightened. So it's just something we should all be aware of. And then on that same note, just how and when to take action. So I would advise that anyone on their pediatrics rotation, if this is something you're concerned about, to talk to your residents and attendings about this, just to get the whole team on the same page if something was disclosed to you that you're concerned about. But this is essentially just saying, like, don't wait, trust your gut, have these conversations empathetically, non-judgmentally, and really don't make it a one-time conversation, follow up regularly. These are just some phone numbers that I got from this resource called the Happiness Project, and I just thought it's helpful to have in case any of them become relevant to your patients on your pediatrics rotation. You can share. These slides will also be posted to Canvas, so they'll be available to you there. But if you're just interested in looking at the Happiness Project on your own, you'll find this graphic as well. And then just for some other crisis line resources for mental health, so they can call or text 988. That's a suicide and crisis lifeline. There's also something called the crisis text line. They can text, and then the Trevor Project is specifically for the LGBTQ community that might be having mental health crises and are looking for someone to call, text, or chat with. So then, as promised, this is how you can request a gun lock for your patient, or you can give them this information. They can go on and request it themselves. But you just go to templesafetynet.org, go to the drop-down Our Programs, and then Safe Bet and request a gun lock here, and they will be able to request one. So these are my references. Thanks all for listening. And then I know I'm not there in person right now. So if you have any questions or would like to get involved, keep your eye out on your class group me for messages from your co-presidents or any questions about this presentation or concerns. You can feel free to reach out to me. My email's right there. And I appreciate you all taking some time to listen. Please just take some time to review our slides on Canvas because we have some helpful infographics that you all can access as well that will be on the slides. So thanks again for your time, and please be on the lookout for the post-lecture survey that I'll be sending out after your clerkship, and take a couple minutes to fill that out if you don't mind. All right, thanks everyone, and good luck with your rotation.